You know, the Zodiac Killer's terror campaign in California wasn't just about violence. A lot of it came down to a pen. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into his correspondence, the letters he sent, and the really deadly legacy they left behind.
We've all heard about the Zodiac's taunting letters, right? For decades, they've basically defined his whole terrifying legacy. But what if a big part of that legacy is built on a lie? I mean, what if the guy who committed the murders didn't actually write all those letters? Just asking that one question, well, it changes everything we thought we know about this case.
See, the Zodiac didn't just terrorize his victims one-on-one. His goal was bigger. He terrorized the entire Bay Area. And his main weapon for this huge campaign of fear, it wasn't a gun, it wasn't a knife, it was the postal service. Seriously, his letters to the newspapers gave him a direct line to the public, and that's how he built his own legend and created mass panic. And this is the voice that got stuck in everyone's head. This quote right here, from one of his very first confirmed letters, it set the stage. It created the whole persona, arrogant, chilling, and just zero remorse. This was the voice that the police, the public, everyone came to know and, frankly, to fear.
Okay, so if we're gonna go on this hunt for forgeries, we first have to know what the real deal looks like, right? Investigators needed to create a baseline, kind of like a psychological and forensic fingerprint for what makes a Zodiac letter authentic. So let's break down that anatomy together. You see, confirming a Zodiac letter was never about just one single thing. It was more like a checklist that investigators put together. And the absolute #1 thing on that list, details that only the killer could possibly know. But they also looked for that super specific, controlling tone of his distinct handwriting, any direct threats he made, and, of course, his signature move against the cops. Yup, the ciphers. These codes, they weren't just a fun puzzle. Oh no, this was a total power move. He was daring the police, daring the public to try and unlock his mind. And this is what really sealed his reputation as some kind of criminal mastermind. It turned every single new letter into a massive media event.
So as the Zodiac got more and more famous, this really strange and honestly dangerous problem started to pop up: forgeries. I mean, the whole idea of faking a letter from a serial killer is just bizarre, right? But the reasons behind it are, well, pretty human, even if they're a little dark. So you gotta ask, why on earth would someone do this? Well, the reasons are all over the place. You've got people who just crave the spotlight, right? They want to insert themselves into this huge national story. Then you have others who might genuinely, but foolishly, want to help the investigation. And then you have the more sinister types, people who are actively trying to send the police on a wild goose chase. And of course, some of it might have just started as a prank that spiraled way, way out of control. So how do the experts actually tell the real ones from the fakes? Well, it's this incredibly meticulous, multi-step process. First, they look at the physical evidence, the actual paper, the ink, the handwriting. Then they dig into the words themselves, the tone, any spelling mistakes, the way he phrases things. And finally, the absolute acid test. Does this writer know details that were never, ever released to the public? All right, now let's actually put all that into practice. When you put a real letter right next to a suspected fake one, whoa, the differences can be pretty stark. So let's do a little side-by-side investigation. First up, let's talk psychology. The real Zodiac, he's in total control. His tone is arrogant and taunting because he's the one actually pulling all the strings. A hoaxer, on the other hand, is just imitating. They're putting on a performance, trying to sound like what they think the Zodiac sounds like. It's a subtle difference, but it is absolutely crucial. And this right here is the knockout punch. This is the real deal breaker. A genuine letter proves I was there because it has details the cops kept secret on purpose. A fake letter can only ever prove I read about it in the news because it just repeats what's already public. Honestly, this is the single biggest giveaway there is. And finally, you've got the handwriting and the language itself. The real Zodiac had his own natural style, complete with his own consistent little quirks and even repeated spelling mistakes. It feels authentic. But a forger, they are actively copying a style, and that almost always looks forced and unnatural. It's something document examiners can spot a mile away. Think of it like a really bad actor trying to fake an accent. You can just tell something's off. So why does any of this even matter?
Well, it's because these forgeries cast this long, lingering shadow of doubt over the entire case. They mess up the historical record, and they really challenge our fundamental understanding of who this killer actually was.
And the impact it's just massive. Think about it. Every single fake letter was a dead end that cost police hundreds of hours. These hoaxes contaminated the entire evidence pool. They muddied the waters on the killer's real psychological profile and sent investigators chasing ghosts. If you take away just a few of these suspected fakes from the timeline, it could completely change how we see the Zodiac's motives, or even when he was active. It makes a case that's already incredibly complex, almost impossible.
So, the main takeaway here, the crucial point, is this. In a case as sensational as this one, where the killer is talking right to the public, you have to question everything. That line between what's fact and what's fiction, between the killer's actual voice and just a bunch of copycats, well, it's dangerously thin. And that leaves us with one last big question. If the official story of the Zodiac killer is contaminated by all these fakes, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other historical mysteries out there are just hidden in plain sight, totally obscured by false clues that we've all just accepted as the truth?